You are listening to the Majestic Mindz Podcast.
And we're back. Welcome to the second episode of the Majestic Mindz Podcast. I'm your host, Morg, and we're continuing onto a great episode part series. What is music? What music should be? And how should you do music? Now, on the previous episode, we discussed about how basically music is sort of like a mathematical collection of vibrations or sounds, if you will, in the very first episode. And we tried to do sort of like a deep dive, a more understanding basically to those who have not or those who may have of the frequencies in music and how it can really, I wouldn't say control, sort of like manipulate the way how the energies move within your brain, if that really makes sense. So we're going to be discussing previous points from the last video, understanding frequency, the power of frequency, discussions of frequency in other media, and then a celebrity, or should I say rapper, who passed away a while ago has discussed to the public about music frequency. And then you're probably familiar with Tim Pool. We're going to talk about some segments in one of his podcast episodes that discuss music frequency and then how you can understand music frequency. All right, so let's get started. Now, the previous points from the very first episode was how there's certain frequencies that your brain can attribute to that controls the waves in it, that can sort of like really manifest a certain energy in your brain. And I was looking more into it this afternoon. But before we go a bit further, we're going to discuss the power of music frequency and why it's a big deal. So I'm reading an article called The Hidden Power of Universal Frequency and Vibration on the website called Mind Journal by author Helen Nornha. I hope I said that right. I'm not very good at pronouncing names, but I guess you learn something new every day. But in this article, it says 442 hertz is an alternative tuning that's mathematically consistent with the universe. Music based on 442 hertz transmits beneficial healing energy because it's a pure tone of math fundamental to nature. Archaic Egyptian instruments have been unearthed. So far are largely tuned into 442 hertz. In ancient Greece, their instruments were predominantly tuned to 442 hertz. Within the Greek Euphasian mysteries, Orpheus is the god of music, death, and rebirth, and was the keeper of the ambrosia and the music of transformation. His instruments were tuned at 442 hertz. The current tuning of music based on 440 hertz does not harmonize on any level that corresponds to cosmic movement, rhythm, or natural vibration. Around 1940, the United States introduced 440 hertz worldwide, and finally in 1953, it became the ISO 16 standard. The reason to change 442 hertz into 440 hertz is explained in musical cult control. The Rockefeller Foundation's war on consciousness through the opposition of A equals 440 hertz standard tuning. So, and basically, there was... sorry, I've nosed snuffling a little bit. In the ancient days, following Greek and ancient Egyptian history, music back then were tuned to about 432 hertz, and then sometime finally in 1953, 440 hertz became the ISO 16 standard. And there's a theory that there's some sort of music cult control that basically changing to 440 hertz as a standard as a way to imprison your brain to basically be able to appeal to consciousness in a higher level. So that's very understanding. I mean, that's very, very interesting. Very interesting. And There's more in the article. So it says 440 hertz is an unnatural standard tuning frequency. In 440 hertz frequency music conflicts with human energy centers. The music industry features this imposed frequency that is herding populations into greater oppression, psychosocial, and emotional distress, proposing people to physical illness, and may generate an unhealthy effect or antisocial behavior in the consciousness of human beings. The science of cymatics, the study of visible sound and vibration, proves that frequency and vibration are the master keys or an organizational foundation for the creation of all matter and life on this planet. When sound waves move through a physical medium, sand, air, water, etc., the frequency of the waves has a direct effect on the structures which are created by the sound waves as they pass through particular media, like the human body, which is made of 70% of water. Very interesting. If you want to read more, I will provide links to the articles I've read in this episode. Now, on to the next one. All right. And this is from the website called Project Yourself, and the article is named 440 Hertz Music, the Hidden Power of Universal Vibration and Frequency. I can't seem to find the author. Maybe he's... I don't see the author, but hopefully I can find him in this article. So it says most of the music around the world has been tuned to 440 hertz and ISO, or International Standards Organization, endorsed in 1953. The recent discoveries of Vitaberry or Nature of the Universe that happened recently shows this complementary international pitch standard may actually generate an unhealthy effect or antisocial behavior in the consciousness of humans. A equals 32 hertz, which is known as Verdi's A, is actually an alternative tuning which is mathematically consistent with the universe. The music, which is actually based on 432 hertz, transmits some beneficial healing energy that is a pure tone of math fundamental to nature. This is also theory which is a change from 432 hertz to 440 hertz was actually dedicated by Nazi propaganda minister named Joseph Goebbels. Sorry if my reading skills are not really amazing tonight, but let's keep going. He used it in order to make people think and feel a certain manner, as well as to make them a prisoner of a certain consciousness. And somewhere around the year 1940, the United States introduced 440 hertz around the world. And finally, in 1953, it became the iOS 16 standard, as was said in an article before this one. Now, 440 hertz meaning. 440 hertz is in fact the unnatural standard tuning frequency, which is removed from the symmetry of sacred vibrations, as well as overtones, which is a clear war in the subconscious mind of Western man. In one paper, which is entitled Musical Code Control, Dr. Leonard Howard wrote, the music industry features this imposing frequency, which is herding populations into greater aggression, psychosocial agitation, as well as emotional distress, proposing people to some physical illness. All you need to do is go out on the street and look around you. What do you see? School kids, young adults going to their workplace, a woman pushing her baby in a pram, a man walking his dog, and everyone. And what does every one of them have in common? iPods or MP3 players. Ingenious, right? And then it goes a little bit further. So that is very interesting. Now, if you're very familiar with basically history regarding World War II and the Nazis, now, say what you want about Hitler and the whole Nazi regime party being fascist, racist, whatever it may be, but one thing we cannot deny about Hitler is when it came to ancient or mystic knowledge or just things above human understanding in the unknown, he didn't joke around with that. He did not joke around with that. This man was willing to gather, well, it depends on where you gather your research or if you believe in any of the conspiracy theories, that this man was willing to gather technology from out of this world to accomplish his goals, and even go as far as to have his army travel into unnatural mystic lands to achieve a higher power. You know, I've spent many times just watching videos and conspiracies about the Nazis with alien technology. There's even been some theories as far as to say that apparently the Nazis that were captured during World War II were used to found NASA and create some of the technology, the space technology that we use in NASA today. Now, that's just a theory. I have no incentive or no really tools or any sort of information to confirm this being true. This is just a theory, but it'd be a really interesting theory if true or proven true. I personally, to an extent, believe so, considering of just how insanely operational and very, very dedicated the Nazis were. Despite that killing millions of innocent people and having a lot of bad faith, their dedication to the unnatural was really insane. If you want to learn more about that, I highly suggest you look up the Bell or Del Glocke, which is German for the bell, where the Nazis created an artifact using alien technology to create a hovering anti-gravity device. And it was so powerful where they tested it outside on some grass outside of the facility where the bell was built and operated in, that it turned the grass and surrounded area into goo. Very strange, isn't it? Now, if any listeners of this episode would like to learn more regarding the Nazi technology during World War II or the Bell, I'll gladly provide a link in this episode. But let's keep going. All right, and then here's another one from this site that we used before, Mind Journal. And this article is written by L.J. Vanier, and it says 432 hertz versus 440 hertz frequency response. Why you should change the frequency of your music. This is going to be interesting. So it says, is 442 hertz frequency response better than 440 hertz? Why does the frequency of your music matter? And most importantly, does the frequency of music affect health? Interesting. And it says, it's scientific fact that everything, including the human body, is made up of energy that vibrates at different frequencies. As such, it just makes sense to question how sound frequencies can affect us. How does the frequency of music affect you? The evidence suggests that sound frequencies can indeed affect us, as frequencies affect other frequencies. Think of it as how being ingredients affect the flavor of a meal. To illustrate this, there have been a number of experiments, such as cymatics and water memory, that shows the effect of frequencies on the physical world. Cymatics shows that when you play sound frequencies through certain mediums, such as air, water, and sand, they can directly affect the flow of matter. You can see the results of the effect for yourself. Water memory has a similar principle. It shows how not just sound, but also intent can affect the vibration of matter. The effect was proven by Dr. Masaru Emoto, who performed numerous studies showing this effect. Everyone has their own vibrational frequency, and a human body is estimated to be around 70% of water. Very interesting. Given the experiments outlined above, it only makes sense that musical frequencies could affect the vibrational state of humans. Everything expressed through sound, emotion, or thought has a frequency of its own that affects the world around it. Just how one drop of water can create a large ripple and affect a huge body of water. Very, very interesting. I will provide a link to that article in the episode, but as this article has stated, certain frequencies through a variety of mediums can affect based on their intent or how they're manipulated. Now, you can find an example of this of not just music, but like what do you consume and what do you eat. Like basically, if you eat things with low nutrients or high fat, you become sluggish, more prone to being overweight. And music is like that in a similar sense, just more in regards to hearing. Now, this is interesting. This is a segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. Tim Pohl is a reporter who basically made headlines during some sort of a conflict he was in. I can't remember where he made his start, but he's pretty big. And he's basically what I think modern journalism should be, or at least what it used to be nowadays. But if you haven't heard of him, check him out. He's very, you could say, left-leaning, but personally I think he's more of a centrist, or he doesn't really pick sides. He's a guy where like everyone can really watch regardless of your political affiliations. But there might be things where like it can really like that will happens in episodes or newsy covers, but personally I highly support anyone that has independent thought and just says things for what they really are and what's happening, and that doesn't force you to pick a side like most news nowadays. It's ridiculous. Like, I just want to hear the news. I don't like being told what to think. You do not have that right. So, all right, let's find a segment if you can find it.
You're making an impact on people's lives. And that drove you for years. And yes, it was the vessel that helps write these songs. I can definitely say that there's a spiritual connection between being the vessel to writing songs and connecting to people.
And a definite energetic one that can't be really described in words. And a lot of people have a hard time even quantifying in sentences, because it's how do you describe this kind of this feeling, this emotion that overtakes a lot of people, even when they listen to a particular song, which of course is usually connected with their emotions. So there's still so many other things I want to ask you. There's also, of course, the 432 hertz conspiracy. I don't know if you guys heard of that one. But
the key event.
Yeah. There's a lot of different stuff out there, but we're just touching the surface.
I gotta know, Trev, when you drum, does it take over you?
Yeah, at a certain point. I mean, when a performance starts, you're focused, and then I mean, you could just contribute that to adrenaline as well. You know, like
he turns into a different person when he drums.
Okay, now this is something I can highly relate on. I'm a drummer myself, and because the thing with being the drummer is like you're the timekeeper, you're the metronome, you're the rock of the mountain. So basically, when you get on the beat, or like when you get on the song, you have to be the one that keeps everyone in time, and you basically change the direction or the pace of the song. Which is why being a drummer is no joke, man. It's no joke. It's a lot of fun, but just to make sure you're the one putting in a lot of that work, because you're the one that's going to be keeping the time, and if you mess up, so does everyone else. But yeah, being a drummer, you basically have to carry the feel of the song and the energy, but most importantly, timing. So I get where this guy's coming from. It's heavy, but it's fun shit.
I see it every night. There's like you watch someone go like Super Saiyan, you know, like when Dragon Ball Z characters would like hit the gas and their hairs would go like blonde and they'd have a whole energy aura. That's what it's like watching him drum for 15 years for me, man. I see him start going and people are like, you guys got so much energy on stage. It's because he's feeding me, who already has all this energy, that I'm feeding the crowd. It's like our live shows are like a ball of energy circulating throughout a room, and you know.
Well, let's talk about that 400 hertz conspiracy. What is that about, Lou? Well, there's different theories out there. I haven't looked into it that much, but there's a theory that music used to be in a healing frequency, and then it was turned into a frequency that's more disruptive. You might know more about this than I do, because I just looked at the surface level of this.
It's one of those world elites, Rothschild or something, that changed the standard tuning from 432 hertz to 440 hertz. 432 hertz brings out the harmonic resonance of the notes, and you get a lot more harmonics and saturation and the musical notes, and all original music like Beethoven, all those original classic composers played in 432 hertz. Their pianos were tuned to 432 hertz. Even the Beatles did some 432 hertz music as well.
I pulled it up here. We got it from Global News, the great 440 hertz conspiracy and why all of our music is wrong. They say, gather around, kids. Those of you with tinfoil hats may wish to ensure that they're fitted snugly. What I'm about to tell you will shake your faith in all the music you've heard in your life. If you look down the right paths, it becomes clear that governments and various security apparatuses have used music to control us. Oh, no. All the music of the West that's based on the standard 12-tone scale is used for the management of crowds, as well as thought control. Ooh. They say if musical performances were to sound the same the world over, some standardization was required. As early as 1885, the Music Commission of the Italian government declared that all instruments and orchestras should use a tuning fork that vibrated at 440 hertz, which was different from the original standard of 435 and the competing 432 used in France. In 1917, the American Federation of Musicians endorsed the Italians, followed by a further push for 440 hertz in the 40s. In 1953, a worldwide agreement was signed. Signatories declared that the middle A on the piano be forevermore tuned to exactly 440 hertz. This frequency became the standard ISO 16 reference for tuning all musical instruments. So what is it? They say no one can say for sure. Why? So what's the conspiracy? What are you writing about?
Well, that's like it's driving people crazy.
Adherents to this theory claim the more natural frequency, or middle A, is 438. Others believe the correct middle is 432 because it is a pure tone of math fundamental to nature and is mathematically consistent with the patterns of the universe, vibrating with phi, the golden ratio. They point to how this pitch can be connected to everything from nautilus shells to the works of the ancients, including the constructs of the Great Pyramid. That proves it!
So
It's time to change all of our tunings.
The reason
Yes. And regarding things with the pyramids, the ancient Egyptians also had a fundamental understanding of the conversion of light. And I was looking, this was a while back, but I vividly remember conspiracy theories, or maybe even ancient archaeologists have a belief that the pyramids were used as power plants. Because if you look on a map, well, Google Maps or just any map that can bring you a view of the pyramids from space, their coordinates match the exact speed of light. Which is insane. So there are theories that apparently they use the power of the sun to converge the light into power for the pyramids. Now, what would the pyramids use the power of electricity for, or the sun's energy? We don't exactly know. Many believe that pyramids were just used for burial places for kings and pharaohs are technically kings, but in a different way. But yes, so not only were the Egyptians highly advanced in language, technology, but even music. You just keep learning new things every day. They could be 1,000 years old. Something gets dug up, and then boom, it's fresh out the boat. Really crazy.
The reason I brought this up is because I saw a scientific experiment, I think like 20 years ago when I was a child, and it had a box of sand, and it put it over a speaker, and it played different hertz, and it played different music, and you could see the shape of the hertz of the music that was translated from the grains of sand that were moved through the speaker. And some of the sand was very disruptive and all over the place and really nasty, and some of it looked like snowflakes. Pure, perfect, synchronistic images. And, this is where we get into a lot of the bigger kind of deeper hippy-dippy stuff when it comes to What the Bleep Do You Know, and other kind of documentaries like Water the Great Mystery that, of course, talk about this in great detail when it comes to, perfectly aligned, alleged healing frequencies. And that's what we hear sometimes. Again, I'm not an expert in this. I just remember this sitting here from 20 years ago.
It's called kymatics.
I'm not either, man, but people gotta know. People have got to know. And hey, even if you don't have a degree in this sort of thing or a huge knowledge, the best you could do is just let people know. Because who knows, you might bring light to a subject that people have never heard of, and you might encourage more people to know. That's what I'm trying to do here, and my friends. We're trying to basically bring back the understandings and the values of what music has to offer us, and basically how it can elevate us to a higher understanding. That's what music has all ever done to me. Elevate me to a higher understanding, like motivate me, encourage me, motivate me. And we want to do that for everyone else. So stick around. We got a long way to go. Our mission is not done. Not for a while.
Is where you use sound to alter matter.
Mm-hmm.
What were you going to say?
So, like, when you tune from 440 to 432, that's 32 cents lower. So it gives it more of a slower feeling as well. So I create meditation, relaxation music with elevated, and everything's tuned to 432 hertz. And that works better for that style of music when you want to chill and you want to relax. 440 could be, leveling it up to give it more energy. It might not be no crazy conspiracy theory stuff. It could just be like, hey, we want more energy. Like, I know that Kiss from a Rose, that's Seal, right?
Yeah.
He wanted his song, without changing the tempo, to have more energy. So he brought up his tuning to like 442. So he brought it up because he wanted to give it more energy, which is tuning it up just a slight. Yeah, I mean, to the untrained ear, you can't really tell. Not even from 440 to 430, you can't really tell. It's more of a feeling.
Yeah, soul and feeling is so important. That's why I think that it could be a little. I don't know enough about it, but I know I write from like just the soul, and I don't overthink that stuff too much when I'm going into a key or a range. So, and I know that's work. So maybe there's a lot of ways to eat a Reese's, right? You know.
Yeah, like, I mean, think about colonization of the Native American population by the Europeans, where the Native Americans chilling in 432, but
Native Americans were 432,
and so it didn't. The Native Americans were 432.
Yeah, if you go get a natural made Native American flute, it naturally comes in 432 hertz.
And they weren't out there engineering weapons, and I mean, they had their own types, but not like the Europeans, not like gunpowder and explosives and physics to shoot cannons and like just like aggro, go, conquer, take.
Ugh.
I wonder if that's
Oh man, that's kind of a wild take, but I'll buy it, I guess.
There was Native American tribes that were like that, Ian, that did conquer other tribes, that were very combative, that did enslave other populations, that did conduct human sacrifice. Farming seasons.
But it's like the aggravation.
I gotta speed this up for a bit.
Typically hot. Native Americans lived in Florida where it's tropical.
All right, I think that's enough. Now, here's another one from a rapper who, as I stated, you all may be familiar with. I mentioned in my previous video by the name of XXX Tentacion. And this is very interesting. Sorry, I'm gonna find an article about him. Okay, now who is XXX Tentacion? Now, for those who don't know, let me pull him up. Alright, so XXX Tentacion, Josiah Dwayne Ricardo oh my god, that's a long name. Known professionally as XXX Tentacion and commonly referred to as simply X, was an American rapper, singer, and songwriter, right? And born in January 23rd, 1998, died in June 18, 2018, so about 4 years now, so he's been dead for quite a while. And personally, in regards to his music, I didn't really become a fan of him until much later in my life. I originally, when I first heard him, as I mentioned before, that I was one of the biggest haters of this guy until I listened to his later music, learned more about him, and I realized he had some tough times, but he was really trying to do better. Now I'm not really trying to praise him or condone his actions. I certainly don't, and no one else should. But this man was really onto something. Now, this is a post that I found on gotta be damn Reddit of all places, but this should be interesting. This is a post from Peacock Devil 3 years ago, and it says music is frequency programming. There's a lot of layers to this subject and plenty of misinformation going around. X himself used solfeggio frequencies, I don't know if I said it right, which are actually a mistranslation of the concept of family number groups. In the DJ Academic's interview and others, X mentioned Hertz frequencies, among other things, which carry the aim of altering the consciousness of the listener. Now, there are several ways to go about doing this. Generally speaking, subtlety is key, and it's good to laminate them together in order to synergize the effects as a basic rundown you have. Frequency and frequency ratios, also brainwave entertainment, i.e., binaural beats, etc., temperament, concert pitch, modal scales, timbral qualities, overtone and textures, audio mixing, mastering as well, musical talent, rhythm, harmony, melody, and 4, subtle energy programming or magic. In order to learn techniques in these categories, you have to first figure out what vibe am I going for here. We are effectively building a temple of sacred space within the music itself that the cultivation of the vibe. We can look especially to nature for inspiration because it operates on sound, mathematical, and aesthetic principles, and it's designed for everything to fit coherently. Once we have a definite vibe down, make like a bee and refine nectar into honey. This process relies on self-learning, but you can definitely benefit from studying universal laws, alchemy, transmutation, etc., etc. None of this is used as a gimmick to substitute real talent skill, however. The music itself has to be high quality. That's probably the most important thing. So there's a very interesting post, and that is from Peacock Devil on Reddit, on the XXX Tentacion subreddit. Now, here is a video that I think all of you should hear, and it's a really deep one. Wait, hold on. Is the site? Oh shit, the site is muted. Hold on a sec. Sorry, just gotta unmute the site. Unmute. There we go. All right, here we go.
What's the point of music? You don't know? It's not always always to have fun. It's not always to have fun. Sometimes it's to help people find themselves, because music is frequency programming. Music is frequency. What frequency are you being fed? I will hope that before they go pull some negative shit out this conversation, they pull this part of the conversation, and they see that I'm really, really actually helping people, bro. Let me be detailed. At 15 years old, I was doing sound engineering. So I was playing with frequency. I was playing with equalizers. Now, I figured out that hertz is to understand the frequency vibration, right? So there's kilohertz. There's hertz, kilohertz, megahertz, right? And then I think it's ultrahertz. If I play with those frequencies, right, I can target certain parts of the mind, target the frequency to go to certain parts of the mind, and I can...
Yep, sorry for the dramatic sound in the back. TikTok just never allows you to upload without a sound. It's ridiculous. Really despise that site. But yeah, that was X himself talking about controlling frequencies.
What's the point of music? Niggas don't know. It's not...
No, sorry, that's just another video. But yeah, that was X regarding frequency and what he understood and how he was trying to control it. So props to XXX Tentacion, rest in peace. Now, with all this information and all this talk about frequencies, how can you have a better understanding, and is there a reason why you should use frequencies? Now, this article is from Mindz, and it says, Understand Frequencies, How to Describe What You're Hearing to Your Sound Tech, by Aaron Stanulus, right? Is that what I'm saying? Whatever. A highly relatable tale. You're on stage or in soundcheck or in your studio, and you find yourself driving. Alright, we don't need to read that. What is frequency? Usually when we describe sounds in the studio world and talk about where they reside in pitch, low to high, refer to them in terms of their frequency. Sound is a wave, a movement of air molecules that our brain translates into sound through a surprisingly complicated series of workings with our ears. These waves can be measured by how many times they complete a cycle in a second. Is that day in high school physics class starting to come back to you now? I never really had it, did I? No, never had chemistry. I wish I had physics. We measure these cycles per second in a unit of measurement called hertz. In music, particularly in tuning, we refer to the reference pitch a 40 hertz, which is 440 hertz. This is a note that produces a vibration that cycles at 440 times per second. So now that we know what these numbers and notes mean, where do we go from here? The range of the human hearing. The widely accepted range of human hearing stretches from 20 hertz all the way to 20,000 hertz or 20k hertz. While most of us are born with this range, most adults actually have a range of 20 hertz to 15k hertz or 16k hertz, bearing no high frequency specific hearing loss. This sounds astronomical still, but the scale of frequencies doesn't divide itself evenly. For example, to go up an octave, you need to double the frequency. To go down an octave, you need to halve the frequency. The A above middle C on the piano is 440 hertz, and the A next to octave about 80 hertz, but the A on the octave below middle C is 20 hertz. This means that there's only one octave of notes, 12 half steps between 10,000 hertz and 20,000 hertz, yet also only an octave between 80 hertz and 160 hertz. Now we know how we measure sounds and what the playing field for what we can hear, but how we describe these sounds. And then it goes a little more further into that, but we're running out of time, so I will link the article in the video. But yeah, in the end, it is entirely up to you to decide on how you want to use your frequency or how you basically want people to vibe to your music. Maybe you have a yoga class and you want people to be more relaxed or just more refined with their spirit. Or maybe you're going on tour of concert. Either way, if you want to know how to basically control, manipulate, or just better yet, gather a certain vibe in your music, you gotta study frequencies. Study frequencies. That is a must. I'll see you next time. Peace.